Sulemana Briamah, Executive Director for Media Foundation for West Africa. Was Akufo-Addo abano, bida, eba corruption, bida. Na nientu okoka as asem na woya analysis of 5 candidates on me you mutiso mo MPP contest no. Owie no ochusu Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia say niema bi nti no odwen se Bawumia be wi na niema ben, but I think say so far me probi a why analysis of nipa 5 na one of my best analysis so far analysis I made bet show or by Sulemana Briamah courtesy news file. Obesha or comment with me, no one subscribe it. We are not going to keep on this case. The video we are tomorrow, no it's my pan rate. App Store, no Play Store also. Open so who rate now what remedy debe man, ala debe man, tap send debe man, ebe buawa, pan rate and ebe download. No compare rate ni na, no clicking ebe buano, na de di with Juma. Sulemana Briamah, any name say we CSO, a big name in the CSO. Wow, pair CSO form kanokre. Omoya, in fact, 4 first states expose omoya national service scandal ni adi nyina no, or no. And essentially, that is the Executive Director of Media Foundation for West Africa 4 first state omodia. Or a big man in the CSO space, you know. Now, why analysis be Saturday on news about the MPP 5 for no. Now I think that's one of the best analysis. Me trying to say candidates, you know, they won't analyze you in my view. It is fair analysis of all of them. Now coming to conclusion of Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, Ninti or Jane said Bawumia was slight advantage, you know. Any analysis no yeah no. E waka crab but ni ye pa. Uvia meba ne analysis na ma.
Constitutionally they are all qualified. It comes down to maybe assessing them on their own personal track records and all of that. So if you take Kwabena Agyapong, Acheampong, 63-year-old engineer, you know, from the Ashanti region, you know, from Infansipim School to KNUST. So he certainly would be connecting with some of the big people in this country, given his background. He is certainly a true party person, and I believe that if you want to look at the track record of involvement within party activities, perhaps Kwabena is ahead of all of them. Even though Dr. Bawumia has run as running mate for a number of times, you look at Kwabena's record in terms of his campaign involvement in the Adutwum times, all the way through to President Akufo to President Akufo-Addo. He served as, you know, presidential press secretary. That should give him some indication about the intricacies of the workings of the presidency. I think that many see him as a straight talker and a doer. He's played leadership role in the party, one-time general secretary, even though I think that he was unfairly removed at the time. The other thing that goes for him is that because he hasn't held ministerial roles and all of that, I think he skips that burden of, you know, the corruption issues that often will come with having played a ministerial role or something like that. And he's been contesting for this position since 2007. You know, so he's giving an indication that this is a position that he has an eye for a long time now. And certainly he's a good communicator.
Except he doesn't have money.
Yes, of course, except he doesn't have money. I think that is one of the downside of him, that he's not as endowed as the other contenders. And then, of course, he doesn't have ministerial or parliamentary experience. So when it comes to real governance, we can say that he doesn't have that experience. And it's difficult to know what is his base within the party. I know he's from the Ashanti region. I don't even know which constituency in the Ashanti region he comes from. So what is his base in the party? I think that is a difficult one. And I think at this stage, he's not known to be backed by any of the big wigs in the party. I think the only person that I've seen speak who is publicly known is, I think, Acheampong, the former, former candidate and former fair wages and salaries.
For the 2 times he has contested, contested this slot, he couldn't manage 1%.
Yes, absolutely. That is true. But that doesn't still take away the fact that in terms of name recognition, you know, having put himself up there and being in the race, at least in terms of name recognition, being known by the party people, you can't take that away.
You think he would do better if he had money?
Well, I think people see him as a very, very viable candidate. There are so many people who think that he would have been a better running mate to Dr. Bawumia in the 2024 elections, for example. So
maybe he should have been a minister in one of the regimes. Because when you become minister, he could have made money. He could have set up businesses.
So you don't say that.
He could have set up businesses, and then he would have become. He would have had money. Yeah.
Well,
Some are very rich. We know some who had nothing.
Yes.
And got into their position, and then the next time they had such a war chest.
Yeah, but that could also come with a risk of having a problem with a corruption scandal following you. That becomes a negative for you. But that takes me to Honorable Acheampong, who is 65 now from Acheampong, and he's always touted his village, and he has 24 years parliamentary experience, and that's very significant, even if he hasn't held a ministerial role before. To be in parliament for 24 years is quite significant. Chaired committees, served as ranking on a number of committees, and
he held the constituency down literally with his own purse.
Yes. And in terms of what goes for him, in terms of the positives for Acheampong, I would say that he has the name recognition. I think in Ghana, a lot of people, any politically active person would have heard about him. The other thing is that he is recognized in the party as somebody who has made significant contributions, financially, campaign-wise, and all of that, even though now there are questions about how he puts that out, and people saying that you overflaunt your contributions to the party. But there was a time when people would tell you that, hey, without Ken's support, the party is going to suffer. So I think that is something that
they don't only say he overflaunts it. They say, but where did you get the money?
Yeah, well.
So it is party that made you rich. So if you are giving us, stop talking.
Well,
the last time he tried it, he got 37%.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I think he's also seen as a no-nonsense person, straight talker. He speaks his mind. And we are at a point in this country where, especially among the youth, they feel we need discipline in society. We need somebody who can bulldoze his way through. People would say, that is what Trump and the other right-wing leaders in some countries use to catapult themselves into power. People talk about where he made his money, but I don't think anyone has said Ken is corrupt. He did this or he did that. There are question marks about, okay, how did he make his money and all of that, but he doesn't have that baggage. He seemed to be a self-made person, and I think he has a strong point when he says, I employ 9,000 people as an individual. And so when I say I'll create jobs, I mean it because I know how to do it. Those who say they will create jobs, how many jobs have they created? I think that is a very strong point. And then he has a media group that is not too weak. And I believe that in a campaign like this, the media certainly would be helping, and he speaks quite well. I think on the downside, his past behaviors of reckless talk is something that will continue to haunt him. I don't know whether in those times he never contemplated one day wanting to seek to become president, but he got himself involved in certain debates and certain actions that I think that were not positive. People for Jimmy, and all of that, getting into debate with some social media folks and direct insults and all of that. I think people would say that he would have temperament and emotional intelligence issues. Even though over the period since he put himself up, I think there has been some changes in the way he manages himself. And he may not also be having the overwhelming influence in the central region now as he used to have. I think those days, Ken was like a kingmaker in the central region. And that's no longer the situation. In terms of who backs him, at this stage, I think I only know of Honorable Sticker from CSO, and then I think Honorable Kwaku is also backing him. So he also doesn't have that much big names backing him. Bryan, 52 now, so very
let's say backing him publicly. You may not know those who back him but don't want to show face.
Exactly.
Right. You go to Bryan.
Yeah, so Bryan, 52, so amongst them, the youngest, very youthful, well endowed.
Very wealthy.
Yes, very wealthy. 9 years parliamentary experience now. He did Achimota Primary, went to Presec, US trained, now has PhD from Legon. So in terms of schoolmates and others, I think he would have big guys.
He's pursuing another PhD or so somewhere.
Right. Big guys out there. So as you said, his main strength, I think, is his purse. You know, the size of his purse. I think he's quite well endowed from his IT businesses.
He has organizational abilities.
Of course.
He's able to single-handedly bring a whole region to bear to the party's
And that's
fortunes.
That's the point I was going to make in terms of the strength he has in the Eastern region. I think he is now what Ken used to be in the Central region, in terms of being seen as the Eastern regional, kingmaker, which is a strong point for him. Strong academic qualification, youthful. At some point, he is perceived to be an Akufo-Addo backer, as having the support of President Akufo-Addo. Whether that will be a strength or otherwise, we are yet to see, but people perceive him to be. But on the downside, I think he has a negative profile when it comes to his security, the way he gets himself involved in security matters. I mean, if you remember, Justice Short's commission's report recommended that he should be reprimanded for being the ultimate, carrying the ultimate responsibility of what happened at Ayawaso, West Wogon. I don't think that was a positive thing for him. Then, of course, his attempt to buy the state property raises a big question. Do you want somebody like this to become your president? What happens if he becomes president, where he can single-handedly decide what he wants to do in a country where the president is so powerful? So I think that is something that would be a big blow. And people would ask, do we want to go back-to-back Eastern region? After Akufo-Addo from Eastern region, do we want to go back to the Eastern region? That's a question that will be on the minds of people. And I wonder if there are well-known, clear policy positions that we can attribute to Bryan. That Bryan is known for this or for that in terms of policy.
Yeah, he's advancing them if you listen to him. And I asked him if he was pitching to become the most, unavoidable person to become vice presidential running mate. Okay. And he said, never. I'm going for the real thing. Yeah, so I think as I said, they are all qualified. He has his positives, and I think there are other sides that we have to look.
Adutwum, who is also not fairly old, 61 now, from Jache in the Busumtri district in Ashanti. So he comes from, let's say, the hotbed of the political party. He is fairly, known for his educational administrative capabilities, having been trained in the U.S. as an educationist, administered a number of schools, founded a school there, and of course has the experience of being a minister, deputy minister and a minister, and now he is in his 9th year as an MP.
When they lost elections, I said that if there was one person that Mahama would want to use from the NPP, it should be him for the education ministry.
Well, I have a different view, though. I think for his positives is essentially the fact that he comes from the biggest region in terms of support base for the NPP, which is quite good.
He's a hands-on leader.
Maybe we would talk about.
And he appears to have great ideas. He decided that in his constituency, he's going to nurture doctors and engineers, a certain number of them, and he started it, and it's working. He's just producing them.
That's fantastic, Samson. But I think you heard that when my good friend Honorable Mutala passed away, there were about over 40 students in medical school that he was
paying for.
Perhaps it's about what you know that what others are doing. And of course, he's been a former minister, as I said. But I think Adutwum was celebrated as deputy minister and was disappointing when he became minister of education. And that's evident in a number of ways in terms of how the free SHS policy was being run. I think there was a whole euphoria. So people did not get the opportunity to look into the details of what was happening within the system. And if you got the opportunity to know what was happening in the system, you realize that things were not going so well.
Okay.
So in terms of name recognition, it's not as much as others. as I said, popular as deputy minister, but disappointing as substantive minister.
How many have you discussed so far?
After this is to Honorable Dr. Bawumia.
Okay.
And then, of course, right now, as you may know, Dr. Adutwum is under investigations for a number of issues over his leadership at the Ministry of Education. National Security, I think, is investigating a number of things. Free Wi-Fi contract, the mass set issues, the one student, one computer issue, and all of that.
They've made that public?
It's ongoing.
Oh, okay.
I mean, this is not a secret. Okay. I think there are a number of things that are ongoing. The last time I was here, I was with Acheampong, who said he's representing him as a lawyer on
was that not Napo? He had gone to represent Napo or somebody.
I have to check that, but I know that there are certain issues that are also being investigated under the tenure of Mr. Adutwum, and that's my position on Honorable Adutwum. And the last person is Bawumia, also not too old, just 62 now. As we know, economist from Walwale, served as a former deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana, running mates, for 3 times. On the 3rd occasion, becoming the vice president for 8 years. UK trained, Canada trained, and so certainly he has good contacts in terms of secondary school. I think it's Tamale Secondary School, so he's also she should have some connections there. Yes, among the candidates, obviously he's the most marketed and well known across the country. Experienced in governance, having served as vice president for 8 years, seemed to be quite smart and articulate. There's no question about that. And then I think that he falls in line with what is historical. Apart from Rawlings, nobody has become president without contesting for a number of times. Whether it is President Akufo did 96 before winning 2000, John Mills did 2000, 2004 before winning 2008, Akufo-Addo did 2012 before winning 2016, and John Mahama, of course, was vice president, but even so had to do in 2012, 2016, 2020 before winning in 2024. And Bawumia has that as well. And of course, people would say maybe it shouldn't come up, but among the 5 is you have Kwabena Agyapong, Adutwum coming from the same region, Agyapong from a different region, and he also comes from, let me say the northeast region, but you can say from the north. I think on the downside of Bawumia is, first of all, the performance of the last election, and I think that is 2 things. One is, for me, the very terrible performance of the Akufo-Addo regime. I think that it was, in my view, one of the worst since I became political.
That's a question I asked. Was that election outcome a verdict on the administration or of Bawumia? Is there a candidate that the NPP could have put up that would have won 2024?
I think that, so I said 2 things. One is that, as I said, the Akufo-Addo regime was a very terrible regime, very corrupt. I'm sorry, my friend is here, as deputy.
He will take his stand. Don't invite him. Don't invite him. He'll take his stand. If
he wants me to prove, I'll prove with instances at his own ministry where he served as deputy. When I say, the regime was very corrupt, and on all fronts, I don't think that it was good. That was one downside for Bawumia. The other downside for him, personally, was that, he had said a lot of things. He had made a lot of pronouncements, and then when he became candidate, many of it were used against him. Economic management team leader, and then how he, the best economic management team, Honorable Yawasafuma for da. Then you are the manager of the economy, or you are an economist. And one of the lowest point for the government was the economy. Haircuts, the bonds that had been taken,
so that brings me back to my question. I want, and at the end, I'm asking all of you to say something about that. That was the 2024 election a verdict on Dr. Bawumia or a vote of no confidence in the NPP? Can you look into the circumstance and say the NPP could have presented someone else who would have won that election?
I don't think that the MPP stood a chance of winning that election with anyone. Because, first of all, this 8-year term, it was up. And secondly, as I've said, if you look at the Kufuor performance, when Kufuor was exiting, and that is perhaps why Akufo-Addo was able to get the runoff, even leading in the first round and then losing in the runoff. But the situation is not the same. Governance was at the lowest ebb, the economy was in dire straits, and people were fed up. A president who was not listening, and so on and so forth. But I said that we cannot just blame everything also on the performance of the president and the government. And of course, the other thing is that it's difficult to extricate himself from what you call the Akufo-Addo performance, because he was vice president. If he was minister, that would be different. But he was vice president, the second most powerful person in the country.
So he was part of it.
So we cannot take that out. And maybe to finish off, I think many friends in the MPP had the hope that one of the strongest points for Dr. Bawumia was the fact that he was going to battle it out with John Mahama in the north. The south, the MPP is very strong. So if you have somebody who is proven to be strong in the north, then that was going to be very good. Unfortunately, again, even in the north, the performance wasn't good. If you look at the presidential, there was a difference of over 700,000 between John Mahama and Dr. Bawumia. You look at parliamentary, out of 57 seats, the MPP got only 10. So certainly...
Who's your money on going into the primaries, if you would stick your neck out?
Maybe I shouldn't, also because of what I do, so that the next time I'm saying something, someone says, oh, he already said this or that.
Out of the 5, the lots, is it obvious for you that it is between 2 persons or 3? Who would they be?
Look, to be honest, I think that if you ask me, I would say Dr. Bawumia is going to win. Because, look, party executives, appointees, 80% of parliamentarians, former DCEs, former candidates, and so on, have all indicated openly that they are for Bawumia. So if one is to base on those things, you would say Bawumia certainly is going to win. But Ken can also spring up a surprise.
Yes, I think so. It's a fair analysis of the fact, according to him. Now, mention say Bawumia is a slight advantage, and I'm actually reason instead of that. Any idea why I think he has a slight advantage? But I also don't think that Ken will lose hugely, say 37-61 in. I don't think it's hard in ABC. And again, on the Akufo-Addo government, and it's a fact. I mean, corruption perception index is there. He has the worst corruption perception index than any government in the fourth Republican dispensation. That is also backed by data. On the state of the economy, some of them are debatable, but some metrics, inflation and co, it was that bad. So I know, say, a lot of people will not be happy. It's normal. Data, they are bad. When you're happy with data, still the data, you can pick Mama reference back or Transparency International. If it will be corruption perception index, you can check it for yourself and do the analysis for yourself. And I think, say, again, it's a fair analysis. I like the one analyzing Kennedy Agyapong, which was a strategic analysis, but proper sort analysis on Kennedy. But I'm also analysis, no sanity. I don't know what to make of it, but share your comments with me. Now subscribe. My most subscribe, and I can keep on notification. The video view to my who know it's my shipping. Pan rate, go download it. Our app store on the Play Store. And after do you remember who rating in your BNCC? Come, I bet me. Edward, man. I'm sure on count. Subscribe, me. Send it to me. Me here, Ghana, and see, and press the subscribe. I'm take off. So bye bye.